Hello and welcome to the aForm Show, the premier podcast for all things architecture and design across the MENA region. Welcome to your tribe. Today's episode is supported by SkyStruct, the groundbreaking construction and project management solution that's absolutely turning heads in the industry. They are bringing together architects, engineers, project managers, procurement, and essentially any stakeholder onto one singular platform. Yes, clients are included. SkyStruct is genuinely changing the game. Its tailored modules for construction management, inventory, labor, cost management helps streamline the chaos of construction projects. They are rolling out very soon in Dubai, but you as a listener can get in early. Drop us an email at hello@aform.studio and find out how SkyStruct is the future, and it is here today. Now, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the show, everyone. Today we are joined by the fantastic Zain Javaid, creative designer at Endpoint, a fellow graduate, I'm proud to say, of the Canadian University of Dubai. Zain is a passionate designer who has challenged himself to follow a relatively unconventional path after his bachelor's degree in architecture. His work in wayfinding and signages at Endpoint is the bridge that translates brands for people to connect to their built environment. Zain, in my opinion, is the essence of what a designer should be. Stick around to the end to hear about his latest project, which seems really awesome, affectionately titled as Spitfire. I'm going to leave it at that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Zain, my man, welcome to the show. It's been a minute that we've tried to have you on.
Oh yeah, Alan. Thanks for having me. And yeah, man. I mean, we've come a
long way.
Interesting way, actually. Long, interesting way. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna open up the floor to you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna maybe take us back to the early days, to when you probably found architecture at some point and decided to study it. However, if someone were to see your career graph, it's a bit different to what most architects probably do. So I want to know from you, take me back. How did you find branding signage? Did you want to do that? Did you just stumble upon it? Walk us through.
Well, I mean, personally, I've always been some sort of an admirer of good things, good-looking things, particularly man-made things. The capability of what we can do as people to make something functional, but at the same time appealing to the eyes.
Right.
It completely changes because we're visual people. And I think like that's one of the things about even I was looking it up about marketing. Basically, the reason why testimonies are so important for brands and companies, because us as people, we're emotionally more inclined to seeing someone speak a certain thing, portray something physically, instead of graphs that can, entirely show numbers about how successful or good something is for you. So primarily, we're visual people. We believe in things that are well designed generally. So that's something I've always of my interests. But primarily, I explored it through photography. So starting capturing these things, So even within photography, what I used to kind of look into was landscape photography, started from nature, then went to architecture photography. Then I started doing light painting. This is basically in the night, you open your exposure on the camera and really capture forms that can be completely drawn out of light. So that's something I used to do, and that's what I really wanted to pursue. And, Dad went that's not really your path. I don't think that's good enough for you financially. I was like, fine. So it gives me about 6 months after I finished school to kind of, look into what I need to do. Living in Dubai, you're surrounded by architecture. So that always kind of appealed to me to kind of understand, what is this? Who makes this stuff?
Right.
Right? Is it
Don't say engineers. Please don't say engineers.
Yeah. I mean, if you live in Sharjah, it's all engineers. So that's why I looked at Dubai and I was like, all right, that's
oh, we love you, Sharjah. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Right. So that's what I started that's where I kind of went to Canadian University, came across their program, certain faculties that kind of helped me define a lot of my decisions in the future. I truly believe faculty, your professors, if they're the right one, are really in it to educate, to learn, to guide. They will define your future. Right. Genuinely. So that's where I started in, but simultaneously within the architecture, I used to do a lot of branding, freelancing work. So basically fetching clients entirely by myself, using photography as an added on, service. But really from there, I kind of looked into creating something of my own as a solopreneur, getting clients for about 6-7 years, even post graduation. That's something I wanted to pursue, but I think I wanted more of an experience under a firm, something a lot more organized. You take a lot of information from that and kind of really apply it into your life. So architecture and then branding kind of comes together. So that's really my sweet spot, right? And experiencing environments visually, that for me was like the exciting part, using colors, patterns, typography in ways where it's such an intuitive way of moving around in space. We don't even understand it. Best design, we say the best design is that you don't even notice it.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's what I was always about. Like, even when you create an architecture building, it should be so well integrated within the landscape where you just feel like you're experiencing the environment itself. Contextually, it's super integrated. You're not like, of course, art pieces on its own can be an experiential element, but I think timeless design is something that's extremely integrated within the environment. So bringing my branding, graphic design, and architecture, I've always wanted to then look at where does this come together. So wayfinding and signage was one of those things that kind of brings it all together. And, I'm working on a lot of interesting projects for public areas where you have sculptural elements that entice your, ideas and kind of really create that awe-inspiring moments. So those are the things that I kind of, was really in my path.
Interesting. I think there's a couple of things there. I think there's students listening to this probably barely keeping up with architecture school, wondering how did this dude do not just that, but also photography, graphic design, semi-solo agency on the side of all of that as well. From a design point of view, I see that whether you wanted to or not, you've learned and picked up a lot of skills which are a bit intangible. Obviously, on the design side, just things like composition, the golden ratio, exposure, contrast, brightness, putting stuff together, even publishing or printing. And those are all skills which typically architects in architecture school don't particularly, exercise on the daily. But with something like photography, it's only that. And with, having your semi-agency, a full-on agency essentially teaches you a lot about invoicing and credit and, writing proposals and responding to briefs and, being front-end client-facing, being back-end production, kind of exposure to all of that in addition to obviously studying architecture. So I think you were in a good place to obviously pick all that up. Personal observation, I don't think a lot of students want to do that, even if they could. Yeah. So my question to you is, what was the motivation? Why live this insanely hard life, it seems, where you probably were not sleeping most weekends, I would think?
Yeah, no, you're right, actually. I mean, to be honest, like, I had like a 9 to 6 job. I used to come home, just freshen up, and back home at 6-7 o'clock, I start my, my branding work. I would sleep at 12, extremely happy.
Right.
Because I was getting to do exactly what I wanted after hours, which is, brand related work. At the same time, I mean, of course, additional income is always great. You can increase your, activities, your lifestyles, whatever it is, it directly impacts you, the people around you. But I think money was not really my thing. It was more about what I wanted to do. So like that was during my architecture job, really. And then I went into wayfinding from there to really look into how those two things to come together. Because wayfinding and branding is somewhat very close. You take a brand and you kind of apply it to a physical object that's within the physical environment.
Right. So,
like you just talked about like photography and compositions.
Okay.
Well, you just talked about photography and compositions, lighting. I think that's such an interesting perspective that I kind of brought from that into design. Because I think majority of the people also have that background in from photography that kind of helps you see things in a different way, see things in a different light, different color. Perspective is a lot more broadened.
Yeah.
Question was, why did you choose this path?
Yeah.
Right.
Why work the long hours? Why any of it, honestly? I mean, you could look at architecture being like, this is what I'm studying, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm putting in the 10, 12 hours a day. I work in this field, that normally is full stop for most people. Why do more?
It's not like my day job was, the 9 to 6 was not really, it's not that it was not fulfilling. It was great. I mean, I was learning new things, new softwares, professional client meeting under certain higher risks, we can say. Brand related is a lot more, integrated within certain stakeholders.
Right.
So you can kind of, have a conversation at a level where you can be in more control of what you're doing. It's more emotional than, more realistic. But I think for me, it's really coming back to kind of exploring what I'm capable of, what I want to pursue. I think, being young, being like graduating, you have so much leverage. You can push yourself, explore new things, and come across interesting elements. You meet so many people along the way that can entirely, define your future. So I think that's what I've always believed in, is to put yourself out there, just make an extra effort, no matter what the consequences are. Maybe it might be a failure. I've had those too. But, I've always, even from the failures, taken good things out of it. But it's really about understanding my limit. What do I like? What do I want to do for the rest of my life?
Right.
As an architect, that doesn't mean you just designing buildings is a beautiful job, and it's complicated, and you're part of something huge. But it doesn't mean that that's the only. There's so many other within design. Design teaches you to be an entrepreneur, make
Right.
decisions, be a problem solver. So you really need to take on that job mentally,
Right.
not career wise.
Yeah.
So that's something I think I've kind of learned from what I've studied, knowledge that's been shared by past professors, fellow experienced architects, for example.
Yeah.
Use it for my advantage, that knowledge.
Interesting. You touched upon a key point which I've been trying to articulate for myself and for friends, colleagues, and so on. You mentioned the word life in your description of design and working in design. My question to you is, do you think design is a lifestyle choice? A career in design, is it a lifestyle choice? The reason I ask this, let me preface and give some context, right? I can see an accountant, no hate to accountants, but they seem to always be like my kind of anti-designer profile. But if you're an accountant and you work a 9 to 5, if you leave your office at 5, I highly doubt that you go home thinking about how could I make my Excel sheets better. Probably not.
Yeah.
Right? It's a job where, most jobs you can mentally, physically cut off when you walk out the door of the office, right? Most designers, especially if you're a good designer, I don't think we ever shut off, right? And as such, therefore, the question, is design a lifestyle choice? As in, you're always a designer, you never stop. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think, like I told you, that's what architecture teaches you, being a problem solver. We're just problem solving any challenge that kind of come across us. I know someone who is within the aviation. He's particularly more of an inspector of planes. He's the last person who signs off that this plane is okay to fly and have passengers. Right?
He's got to be really good at his job.
Yeah. Right. He's probably shivering. His signature is just a scribble, right? But what his job is about really analyzing, inspecting things. So even in his daily life, any object, any tool, plumber comes in, he's on their head telling them how to do the job, because that he lives that.
Right.
He knows how things are done in a way where I want to see it done this way because that's the right way to do it. It's the safest way to do it, not just about being right.
Right.
Safest way to do it. I think that's I think when you love your job so much, when you love what you do, if you are a designer by heart, you're a problem solver. You're looking at things, how can they be better for the future, for coming generations, for general simplification of experiences. We don't need to overcomplicate things. Okay. It's just constantly looking at things and almost getting a high from it, from that experience of appreciating art, appreciating design, and producing it. You know, as good designers, you're always inspired by non-design things as well. You know, quotes, words that can inspire you to create.
Right.
So I think it's within your blood. If you truly are into it, it's within your blood. You know.
Interesting. True. I have come to a very similar conclusion.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're doing so much with your time. You have the full-time job, you have photography. You then, as you just mentioned, you're happy to sleep at 12 o'clock the next day with a smile on your face. I'm interested to know from your experiences, obviously outside of work, before you started a full-time job, you must have had internships. I know firsthand you've had at least one, if not more than one.
Oh, yeah, it's.
So for the students maybe listening in who are going to enter the workforce or are maybe still studying even, key takeaways from your pre-full-time job.
Yeah, man. I mean, of course you remember this. My first internship was under you, Alan.
Was it? No way.
It was under you, man. And you took me under your wing. And genuinely, I had one of the best architectural, like real life experiences professionally, where, you really put me in the mud and guided me through that process. I was very fortunate. I was one of the lucky, fortunate ones to kind of really experience architecture before I've actually gone out into the actual market. And you gave me within a month's time, actually, worked on like 2 or 3 projects. You put me in certain specific points where you thought you knew that I would learn something very specific and come out of it with actually, applying it into the real world. So yeah, I mean, firstly, thank you for that. That was quite a interesting and defining step for me to kind of really, go out and really explore what I wanted to. And I think my first job was within an architecture firm where I kind of already knew what I wanted to be part of. And they kind of put me in that area, and I did shine through. I had that experience of, with looking at different aspects of the process. And I had a really good transition into those with my own confidence, with my own knowledge, and of course, a lot more learning from that team as well. But I think not many students, when they're going through internships, have that opportunity. I think this is where people who are kind of taking care of the interns should step up and really understand what role they're playing and add a huge difference to what they're about to be doing in the future. Give them the knowledge that they need, not objectively, subjectively, and understand what they want out of it.
I think if I can just be devil's advocate here, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people probably listening, wanting me to say what I'm going to say, which is interns and intern Shweta, now that you're here and listening to this, interns for most companies are a liability in the sense that they demand more energy and resource than they give out, right? Now, that is a very cynical way to look at internships. I personally completely against it, but I can see why a busy senior architect just won't have the time to give to an intern and may just put, the intern in a material library or, the cliche example, pick up coffee in the morning or something like that, which I'm hoping I didn't make you do. But
I think I made a coffee for myself. So thanks for that.
But yeah, I mean, there is a flip side to it, right? There is the whole thing of, interns do demand a certain amount of energy and time from the entire office. And most of the time, their output does not justify that normally. Now, having said that, I'm of the opinion that it's an investment into the ecosystem. I don't like the word matrix because matrix is a bit derogatory maybe for what we're doing, but just the ecosystem, right? That everyone wants our ecosystem to be better, right? We all want better clients. We want better talent. We want more efficient work. We all want that, right? It's something which we all universally can agree upon. So for me, putting in that extra time, doing that extra, thought even is working towards that. Yeah. And I think that if a lot of architects saw it in that framework, it suddenly becomes okay that oh, you know what, let me take half an hour extra and really explain this. Let me take him or her along with me for this meeting, even if they're just going to sit in the corner and be a fly on the wall, right?
Yeah.
Because the end result being that this talent, even if they're not going to be working with me, will go on to do better work for somebody else.
Exactly.
And maybe in the future, maybe this intern becomes my client in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Dubai small, man.
Exactly. Who knows,
small.
right? So I think if you look at it as you're working towards elevating the design ecosystem, I think that makes a lot of sense.
No, 100%. And it comes back, man. I mean,
you're a good example. I mean, look at where we are now.
Yeah, no, I do feel like I've like, certain chapters in my life have brought me to a place. I mean, see, success is not defined by where you are, what you've achieved. Success is about, are you happy with what you've achieved, where you are, and where you're willing to go?
Right.
Knowing where you're going.
Right.
Sometimes you don't know where you're going. Sometimes you know where life's taking you. But I think certain chapters definitely help. So 100%, I agree in these kind of learnings. And I think like it comes back, man, like where you are, what you've achieved. You recently won awards. I think those are accolades of what you represent within the architecture arena. And, you've been in the industry for such a long time.
Or barely. I mean, relatively speaking, but yes.
Man. I mean, it's about the number of projects you've worked on, your network, and then I mean, comparatively, you're in the in a good place within this architecture realm in Dubai. So I think you deserve some real applause, man, from me and some very young upcoming architects that are listening to this, learning some very key takeaways that unfortunately life might not bring their way. So I think really you're doing this, you're making a lot of big difference.
Right.
In me, who was probably young as well. Again,
I think this might be a good segue for me to actually make this story public. Because the amount of times I've told guests this story, and you of all people should probably now hear it from me on record.
Tell me, man.
The internship that you had with me at the time was unpaid.
Yes.
Right? I'll be the first to admit it. Morally, ethically.
Wasn't under your control. I get it, of course.
Morally, ethically, it is something which I'm dead against, personally speaking. Although I understand why companies do it, right? And in some frameworks, I can get on board with it as well. In some frameworks, not all. Definitely not design fields, right? But in some other industries, I can see an unpaid internship working towards experience. I can get on board with that, right? So having said that, when you came on, I remember that I intentionally went, I'm hoping you noticed as well, out of my way quite a few times
100%.
to basically expose you to as much as I possibly could. Admittedly, it could have been a lot more, but as much as I could at the time. And I remember having a conversation with you almost towards the exit when you were done, wherein you were already saying about, your learnings and everything that you, the people you had met, mainly more than anything else. Yeah. And I remember very distinctly you said, it's such a shame that, this is limited to the 4 or 5 designers that are here. Because, if a colleague of mine or something had, been exposed to what I just did, maybe they would be doing something completely different. Maybe they'd be an interior designer, or maybe they'd be a landscape designer. And I remember you saying that I didn't even know that these were fields that an architect can even actually go down into.
Exactly.
And if it wasn't for this, I maybe would not have even known. 100%. And along that time is when I was listening to a lot of podcasts myself. And the convergence of what you said with me listening to podcasts, 4 years later, that's the aForm show.
Wow.
So you're kind of the reason why the show exists, man.
I feel honored. No, but I think, I think it's just like, thankfully I was the words that kind of inspired it, but really you were already doing all of that. You were doing it one person at a time, kind of a session, instead of, really creating it for a lot of listeners that can simultaneously learn these things. So I think you were kind of destined to come here, and I'm glad I just said the right words that kind of inspired you. But man, keep doing this. Honestly, keep doing this. Good things will be coming your way, man. Like they've always have.
All
honestly.
right. And now back to our regular programming.
Oh, yes.
I see that we've gone off to a tangent. So let's pivot gears and talk about wayfinding and signage. Admittedly, this is something which I do not know a lot about. And I think you're right. I think when done correctly, as you mentioned earlier, maybe I don't even notice it because it's that good, probably, that it just blends in. And I just intuitively, visually, somewhere in the subconscious, I'm being led to wherever I have to go.
Correct.
From a client point of view, at least what I've seen, right? The minute a cost comes in, one of the very first things to get value engineered off the project is normally wayfinding and signage. It's number one on the hit list, closely followed by lighting or something like that, right?
That's true.
And I've tried a lot to explain to clients, obviously, why that is a mistake. And it just seems to fall on deaf ears. So I want to know from you, I mean, you can be honest about this. Do you think wayfinding and signage is underrated? Or do you think it's not fully understood? Why do you think that's the knee-jerk reaction for most clients to be like, oh yeah, let's just, we can make do without that?
Yeah, no, I think what usually gets misunderstood is that the front end experience, which is functionality, MEPs on top of everything, that's where you need to kind of bring all your designs and make a realistic structure, of course, and then we can really talk about design and overall experience of how spaces are programmed intuitively. Ideally, wayfinding starts right there. Is that you design a space intuitively, you need as little as possible wayfinding components within your environment. But regardless, I mean, built environments, when you're creating walls, you're hiding information behind it. You don't know what's around the corner. So as a person who's kind of visited a place for the very first time, you need an information before you have the second step. Right. So wayfinding is basically, I'd like to describe it as user interface of built environments. So when you go to an app, you have a user interface of how to navigate an app. If it's done poorly, you are going
have a horrible experience.
Yeah, you're basically having a very chaotic navigational experience. You don't know what to press next, right? The best app design is you have the least amount of clicks, right? So wayfinding done right, done properly, done in a way where it's strategically done. You don't just place signage in the environment. I think that's one of the fears of the clients, that, this place is just going to be completely loaded with signage. Right. But if you give the right information at the right decision points, you're in a far better place to make your decisions along the journey.
Right.
So that's where wayfinding is kind of a tool to simplify this complex environment, which we constantly build.
Right.
Coming to a place for the very first time, you don't know what you're stepping into.
Right.
It can be overwhelming.
True.
So creating that as intuitive information, giving you the tools before you go forward.
Right.
I think it's very important. And the last user experience is for the visitor who comes and experiences your environment, no matter how well lit it is. Well, lighting can help in wayfinding too, but also just ambience. Materials can help in look, feel, and ambience, and then essentially what it makes you feel, warmth or cool or exciting. Sound. But if you have the correct tools to experience all that, that puts you in a very good place. Right.
True. Interesting. I've never really thought of it that way. That I guess, the knee-jerk reaction is to think that, there's just going to be like signs everywhere, and I think what's key is identifying those decision points, right? Which, as an architect, I don't think I've ever really thought of that as from a user experience point of view, that once you walk in, it's key points where you need those information, and you don't really need it kind of visually bombarding you every 10 meters or whatever.
I mean, also wayfinding and signage isn't just like text. It can be hues of light, it can be materials, wood, concrete. We're looking at surfaces that could be of different colors. It could be plantations of flowers with different colors. So wayfinding can be integrated multidisciplinary wise in a way where it becomes almost unseen. That's where good design kind of comes in. So what for us, really, it's all about coordination.
Right.
We coordinate very close with landscape designers, closely coordinate with architects and interior designers, whoever it could be that we can work with to adjust certain components to make it a lot more stronger, visually, experience wise, and as much as possible to eliminate graphical elements and bring in more experiential touch, feel, textures, all of that.
Right.
So it can be done in quite a integrated ways.
Interesting. I have an example which I've been meaning to ask you, and I know we've not had a chance to catch up for a while until this podcast happened, but I thought it'd be quite interesting to get your opinion on this, right? So I went to, I really don't want to throw this hotel or bar under the bus, but let's just say
Hotel A.
A Hotel A had a very, very nice lounge bar. And of course, at some point in the night, I had to go visit the facilities, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
As a designer, I found myself stumped because I was looking at two washroom doors. One had a dot, one had a circle, right?
Okay.
Now, if you stand there and give it a bit of thought, you can probably figure out the right one.
Correct.
But I'm thinking most people don't want to do that.
Right.
And then that got me thinking,
should I ask?
Should I ask? No, but existentially got me thinking, right? Clearly, that was a design statement,
right,
which maybe works with the brand, works with the space.
Correct.
Does it work with the user? Question mark. Not sure.
Very good question.
Where do you draw the line? When does it become too much? When does it become more of it's almost my way or the highway when it comes to signage? I mean, is that something that you think about?
Yeah, no, I think what we usually do as wayfinding design is that when we are designing certain things, we're so involved in it. We truly believe in what we're doing, first of all, because, we've gone through such a crazy road of ideas and stumble upon this. This could be so cool. It's so out of the box. But it's so important to have a second eye, third eye, fourth eye, fifth eye. You let someone else see it. Don't explain it to them, and just put it into context. Okay. And then let them have, you need another perspective always. Right. And you will get feedback, and you have to trust that feedback. You have to be objective about what you're producing. Can't be subjective. As designers, we can get a bit, I think, emotional about what we're producing. But I think over time, you learn to get away from that path. Because a good designer is always very objective even about what they've produced. But I think it's just we can go down of such a crazy wormhole of ideas and then believe exactly what we produce, even though it makes probably no sense to anyone else but you. So I think my way of evaluating certain ideas that I think I want to push a lot, sometimes I do. It's a bit too much.
Right.
And I think others your peers need to be genuinely honest with you and not be a, cherry coat anything. Just let them know it is not working. And that's for me, that's my tool.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is a line.
There is. There definitely should be, because as you mentioned, you can bring in the brand, you could bring in the ideas, but at the end of the day, is it functional? That's always our question. As wayfinding elements, overall systems, if it's not functional, it's not doing the job. If it's functional, it's doing the job, no matter how well. It needs to be good looking, of course.
Of course. There's always aesthetic to it.
Primarily, it needs to be functional.
True. Interesting. I want to pivot to a different market. I know that you're obviously involved quite heavily, it seems, at the moment with our neighbors across the border.
Yes.
The great old kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Massive amount of work happening for everyone in the design and construction field. I'm assuming the same case with you. Key takeaways for our listeners, key learnings from that market for you in wayfinding, anything that come to mind?
Yeah, no, certainly. I think Saudi is pushing themselves quite a lot. Interestingly, idea-wise, they've really been working with some of the top talents, skilled, teams in the world. And really, they truly want the best of the best to be involved in the development of what would be the future of Saudi and what could be the future of the tourism in Saudi, So I think personally, worked on quite interesting projects within Saudi, from DGDA to NEOM, Al Ula. There's a few projects that kind of have been part of that have completely defined new ways of thinking. That's where I kind of come in, where they have really been behind searching for true talent that is open to exploring new ways of how we as people perceive information and make it an experience on its own. So technologically, that's another conversation. I mean, we've been pushing ourselves, understanding and researching what technologies are kind of being explored right now, and how can we adapt that in the next 20 years. So potentially, like we're currently like working on projects that will be of the future, and we need to research right now what's happening in the future, possibilities, how much could they possibly cost as well, and integrate it in a way where it's feasible,
Right.
it's realistic, experientially it's functional, and principle wise of let's say a brand, that's a developing brand, does it truly represent their goals,
Right.
of what experiences they want to create. So I think it's been quite very exciting for being involved in such an interesting and what do you call overall realm of projects that are kind of coming out from Saudi.
So would it be fair to say that even for your field, that is wayfinding signage, do you think that they are quite forward thinking, as in thinking not just of the project and handing it over, but thinking long term, what is this going to be? How is it going to actually adapt and move and things like that?
I think primarily, like, the main goal is when we're producing any ideas, developing any systems, the main goal is to keep it timeless. That even after a couple of years, 10 years, these systems are still functional. They're adaptable. They're flexible enough to change based on the development of the environment that has changed over the last 10 years. Flexibility is one of the newest things that, not the newest things, but a thing to definitely consider in your systems now, because our environments are constantly changing, developing. New projects are coming through. New destinations are coming, which you want people to kind of go and navigate their way towards, which you really use that as a marketing element. So again, like I said, like functionally, it is the most important thing, that it works functionally, which is flexibility wise and durability of materials over the next, the conditions of the environment, the weather. It needs to really withstand all of that harsh environment. But at the same time, trend wise, design wise, aesthetically, does it go through overall as a component that could be part of the public realm or even the architecture? So when we're kind of designing, we're definitely looking into all of those things, and how does it look, not just today, not just on a year from the launch of a project, for example, but even when the next generations kind of come through and kind of experience that environment, it's still functional. It's still user friendly and user centric. So I think that understanding from the client side is always there. That's always one of their briefs, is that to create something that works now and in the future.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Would it be fair to say that, I mean, I'm just trying to form the question in my mind here, because the more I hear about wayfinding and signage from you, it sounds really difficult, in all honesty, because from what I'm hearing, you need to capture, the brand, the asset, the entity, whatever it may be. So it needs to stand out and do its own thing, but at the same time, it needs to be universal for user experience, because you don't want users to not be able to keep up or actually understand what your designs are. And at the same time, it needs to be flexible for the future. And at the same time, it needs to be multidisciplinary. It seems like it's a lot. And I definitely didn't know that. So I'm assuming most clients don't know that either.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does, like all of that coming together creates a big impact on the end user, right? And really looking at the level of complexity that we kind of look into strategy wise.
Right.
Our first step is always strategy, looking at understanding the assets.
Okay.
What are the destinations that will be marketed? That's what you want to highlight within the systems, and creating a map, an interesting solution of understanding. You've come to a destination, you've been marketed that. Our job is to, once you've reached, you have those components are highlighted, and to create that journey is more of this intuitive, all the information you have in your hands, a kind of a mission, really. And working together with different disciplinary teams, it's a joy to kind of bring input individually and create change where things can be better. And we're always very happy when the consultants are willing to adapt their design based on slight more addition of functionality. I think that's what excites us the most, is the disciplinary part and multidisciplinary part, and looking at the overall development of looking into the flexibility part. I think that's something that we make sure that the belief of what the client kind of has of what this place will be in the future is considered. That's when we look at our criteria of what this system needs,
right,
and how we develop it to really specifically be bespoke,
right,
for the environment and the client and the project.
Interesting. Okay. As we wind down the episode, a couple of final thoughts, right? What's the future of wayfinding and signage? I know you briefly mentioned about how you and your team are, busy researching and thinking about the future and so on. So is there something which is radically going to change the way that you think about wayfinding and signage? Is there one particular learning that you found? Basically, we're just trying to establish, what's, for lack of a better word, what's the innovation that we're going to see in wayfinding and signage?
Personalized experiences.
Okay.
The future is looking towards more of this individual experiences, even by name and your recognition. Avoiding, facial recognition and whatnot. But the future of wayfinding in general and environments is all going to be personalized. How I see it.
Right.
It would be interesting to kind of go to a destination and it already knows you. It has created this unique journey that is to your preference. Takes you along the walls, along the path, in a way where your primary focus is not looking for information, is that you're guided based on your preferences, and your primary thing is just experience. You really are indulging in the environment itself. And I think that's where hopefully our future should go towards, how we should design environments, take on technology in its positive aspects, and kind of, bring that full circle of what we're meant to really be doing is declutter information and focus more on our built environments.
I can't help but think with that example about movies like Blade Runner, or Dune, or something of that nature.
Exactly.
Which I'm not against. I completely would want that.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that's where it's going.
Well,
that's nice.
That's the hope, that it goes there. That we can really be pushing the boundaries of technology in a way where those things can happen. There's like in Detroit, there's an airport that has this screen where once you kind of scan your boarding card, you go in front of that screen, and then you can literally just see your name and telling you what gate you need to go to. And if you're standing at a different area in front of that screen, you would have your name. So that technology is already there. Like, it's kind of interesting how that screen does that. That every individual standing in front of that screen sees their name. They don't have no glasses on. They're not looking it through the phone. So that's personalized information.
Wow.
So these technologies are kind of coming in, and I think it always intrigues the mind initially, and eventually it will become just part of our life.
Insane, man. Yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm pumped.
100%.
So just before our closing tradition, right? I know that I promised our listeners that we talk about this, and I don't want this episode to get too long, but I would really want them to know about what is Project Spitfire.
Oh man, it's been a passion project of mine since I was a kid. Honestly, I always loved flying, but I don't think I would ever be as fit to be a pilot. The criteria is way too high. So the only other way you can actually feel that is riding a motorcycle. So I've always loved motorcycles. I've always wanted to design my own from scratch. So actually end of last year in December, I had finally decided, let's work on this passion project. Found a motorcycle. It's a retro classic, modern retro classic motorcycle by Royal Enfield. Made the purchase. I was like, perfect motorcycle to kind of have a project on. And I converted the whole motorcycle into a cafe racer. So that is something that I have been super, super happy with. riding to work for the past 6 months on that thing has been an absolute pleasure of mine. Looking forward to waking up in the morning, going to work. Not like my work is miserable. I love my work, right? But that added experience of sitting on a motorcycle, flying through the highway has been just an absolute treat. And the fact that, using my own skills, using my own ideas that I've always kind of, stored into one of the folders on from Pinterest, finally had a chance to work on it has been absolutely interesting.
I wanna quickly know, because I too have a passion of building, generally speaking.
Yep.
Something like motorcycle customization definitely has learnings, I'm assuming, right? You definitely tried to do something, it failed for some reason or the other, right? Any one key takeaway that you learned, even if it's something like tolerances, like, oh, we should probably keep 2 millimeters clear here and there, anything like that?
Actually, it's more about the experience working with the guys who kind of built the project for me. I had the whole design, working with them very closely to get the samples for leather, paint job, combination of colors, how they work in light and in night. And really, with that whole overall experience, because the motorcycle is very different than an actual industrial design product thing. It's more about, it needs to go aesthetically. The motorcycle was themed after the plane Spitfire, right? And the aircraft Spitfire. And that's something I wanted to truly capture in its essence of how it looks, how it sounds, even the exhaust. So my learning was really about, the project essentially took a month. It could have taken 2 weeks. It's just that I had to organize my own ideas before I went into the project. I wanted it to be done sooner so I can write as soon as I can. But it was really about my own decisions that I kind of went on and kind of changed during the process. I think that can happen personally when you're working on your own projects, is that you can never go like, oh, it could be better, because it's my project. I can take my own sweet time. But it was really about getting the parts and putting it all together. Would have been a lot easier if I knew what I was doing slightly before. But overall, within the process, there were certain decisions that I had to cancel out after prototyping. But I think prototyping always helps before you actually have a final build.
Right.
So I think that's something I would love always doing is prototype.
Okay. I do have a lot of questions, but I think for now, I'm going to leave it at that. For any of you who are interested in motorcycle customization, I think Spitfire has an Instagram page, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it does, actually. It's on Instagram. The page is called spitfire.re, at spitfire.re.
All right. So I'm going to briefly divert all you guys there. We have a bit of a closing tradition on the podcast.
Beautiful.
Which I think I can now safely say that it's here to stay. I think it's a good one.
Are we doing a challenge or something? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a bit of a TikTok challenge.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Right.
I'm kidding. What am I? I'm definitely kidding. No. So the tradition is that we have one of our previous guests ask a question to the next guest. They don't know who the next guest is. You don't know who the previous guest is. So it's pretty much an open question that you can choose to answer or not, however you feel like. This particular question was short and sweet. So if you're ready for it, here it comes, right? What was your best learning from your worst client? You can take your time to answer it.
It's a lot of them.
What was your best learning from your worst client?
Wow. It's a lot of worst clients. What's
like the baddest one?
The best learning from the worst clients, not the other way around, okay?
Yep.
Not the worst learning from the best clients. To be honest, it's been always involving them a lot more into the process, because I feel like the lesser they're involved, and I think ownership is very important to kind of disclose about, like, you've hired a specific skill to do a certain job. It's very important to have full trust and belief in what they're doing. But I feel like sometimes it's that line is a bit blurry for the client, where they can kind of step in. But I think personally, it's important to kind of bring back that line to and kind of explain to them, and in a way, of course, where it's really involving them in the process of the overall journey, a lot closer, in a sense where they've got their say. Or partially, you've included what they want where it can be applied, but also taking ownership of, and kind of defining that, like this is something that we've looked into based on what we're suggesting. This is what works. But at the same time, more frequently, I've had like meetings or established workshops with the client. Really, is that they've understood the confidence that we kind of bring in, and they build that trust over time. It's a tough question, to be honest, to answer it.
Well, I know who to blame, so I will speak to him about this.
About what? The question? Huh?
Yeah, about the question.
Question,
I'll be like, you can't ask such tough questions to my guests.
It is a tough question. How would you answer that?
How would I answer that? Good question.
It is a good question.
I'm on the spotlight now.
Yeah.
No, let me think about this.
How would you answer that?
Best lesson from the worst client. All right, I have the worst client in mind. I can visualize him.
Yeah.
Best learning.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's similar to what you're saying. I think it's having an opinion.
Yeah.
In all honesty, having an opinion.
Yeah.
That was my best learning, because I think, again, building upon what you're saying, is that client trust is normally lost if they don't trust you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you don't give that impression, at the very least, I mean, in reality, you should know what you're doing, but even if you don't give that impression, that's where things start to fall sideways. That's where, they'll question your decisions. They'll question your design direction. They'll, essentially start to just, poke holes into everything. But if you have an opinion and a stance, then they can just disagree with you.
Correct.
And that's a different story entirely.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a question of personal choice. It becomes a question of aesthetic. That's entirely different.
It's always there.
Right? But if you take a stance with, obviously reasonable thinking and logic behind it, I think that was my key learning. I think the worst client that I had was, standard thing, revision after revision after revision, and let's look at this and that and this and that, and
past the stage. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And I came to realize after that project that this was the reason why, that I wasn't sure myself what I wanted to do, and it was more about pleasing the client a bit too much and letting them probably walk all over you because of that. Again, no one's at fault here, right? Because at the end of the day, the client's the client, they're paying the bill. It's within their absolute right to demand whatever they want, technically. But from that experience and from projects that I've delivered after that, I've come to realize that if you keep them involved, but then actually give them the confidence that you know what you're doing and stand behind yourself to know what you're doing. I think that was key. That was a big learning. Yeah.
That's so true. I think it really is the confidence that you kind of bring into the conversation.
Yeah.
And then overall, explaining the reasons why you've come to that conclusion, explaining to them step by step. Sometimes they really won't get it.
Right.
So you really need to break it down.
Right.
And then, that's very that's generally the path that, they need to kind of be assured of. Is that, okay, these people that I've hired have that confidence, and I need to step a little back so that this can actually go forward. Right.
True.
Creating that loop of revisions is really truly the
that's a death spiral.
Yeah.
You
could be revising great ideas that are specific to the project and gone to a place where, this is not what we intended. This is not what the project needs.
And worst case, it's average.
It's average.
That's the worst. Yeah. That is the worst. Like, I would rather have a bad project. I would rather have a bad project than have an average project. Like, that is the worst.
Catch it.
I'd rather have like a massive monumental failure.
You could be like, oh, it could have been a little better, right?
But the average ones. The average ones, man, they're the killer.
That's very true.
I'm sure we've made a lot of architects angry. So,
for sure.
Anyway, Zain, thank you so much. This has been one of our much more lighter episodes. Thank you for enlightening us on wayfinding and signage.
My pleasure.
Had honestly no idea how complex it was. Kind of interested now. I'm going to keep an eye open for different types of signages that I see nowadays. And on behalf of the show, thank you for your time, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a pleasure. I've been watching and hearing the podcast. Got a lot of very interesting personalities that come on. I wish you all the best. for the future ones. And yeah, I'm all ears, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
And for the rest of you guys, we will catch you guys next week. Fellow aFormer, thank you so much for your time. If this episode added any value to you, please share it with anyone who may benefit. If you want to carry on the discussion, please get in touch with us over socials. We are at aForm Show on the gram and hello@aform.studio on email. That is at aForm Show on the gram and hello@aform.studio on email. Until next time, stay inspired.